Wild weather changes are expected for the foreseeable future. We got winter storm chances, we got Arctic air, we got severe weather risk, and just about everything in between. And what's wild about all this is it seems like the closer we work to specific time frames, the more fuzzy things get. And we're supposed to be working in the other direction, right? We're supposed to be getting more confident on what's going to happen the closer we get to these time frames, but that's just not the case. So we're going to discuss this in great detail in this video, get as detailed as we can. My name is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning. Hope you guys are doing well out there and having a wonderful week so far. Subscribe if you haven't, like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please drop it in the comments below. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So let's talk about storm systems first, and then we'll speak on temperatures and the pattern as a whole as we make our way deeper in the video. So we got northern stream energy right now, and this is starting off for this evening, but this is ongoing right now also. And we got southern stream energy down here, and this is producing some severe weather this morning and has been over the last day or so. And this is producing a little bit of rain, but on the cold side of this, this is producing some pretty heavy snow and even brief blizzard conditions at times. We have winter storm warnings ongoing, but this is starting off this evening. Right now, the snow is more so in the Dakotas, starting to move into Minnesota right now. So let's continue to move this forward. This energy is going to continue to move across the Great Lakes region, eastern Canada. This is going to bring cold air with it. And outside of the main precipitation from this storm system, once this moves away, we're going to have lake effect snows to get going with all this cold air spilling across the Great Lakes. And as you can tell, you see areas of blue over these favored lake effect snow regions off Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario. And this is going to bring several more inches of additional snow outside of whatever you're going to get from the system moving through right now. And then we enter a bit of a quiet period. Still have some lingering lake effect snow. And if you are confused about what timeline, what time frame we're at, it's right up here because I'm going to forget to mention the days of the week sometimes as I kind of make our way through all this data. And as we continue to move forward, our next system to watch out for is as we are getting into Black Friday into Saturday. And it's really into Saturday. We got a low pressure cutting across the middle of the country. We got cold air dipping back down, kind of reinforcing the cold air across areas of the central U.S. And speaking of the cold air, that's a big question mark, and we'll get more into the temperatures later into the video. But check this out. I think this is a winter storm that we're beginning to lock in across areas in the Midwest. And this is getting to this coming Saturday morning, the 29th. This is the Euro, by the way. We're going to go over the GFS and the Euro AI also. And as we continue to move forward, we start to get into Saturday. You know, if you're a college football fan, there's this rivalry weekend. It's going to be a snowy one across areas of the Midwest, upper Midwest, Great Lakes region. So, you know, if you're a big fan of football and winter weather, this coming weekend is going to be certainly your vibe if you have a team that plays further up north. But speaking of just the winter storm in general, look at Chicago, Milwaukee, and just getting a little bit closer into this and getting this back in motion. It's snowing in Des Moines, you know, Peoria. This could be kind of a highlight zone of this snow, and, you know, Green Bay, Milwaukee. And let's just make this a little bit larger again. And as we continue to move forward here, all this energy will continue to move to the eastern U.S., and there's going to be a warm side of this. I want to watch for a little bit of icing in these favored CAD regions of Virginia, even North Carolina. Could be just enough cold air left around as we're getting into Sunday morning for a little bit of freezing rain. But I do think this could be a pretty high impact winter storm, starting to moving into lower Michigan, even areas of Ohio. We still are trying to figure out the details of this. But as this low pressure cuts into areas of eastern Canada, I think it's going to bring a lot of warm air into all this moisture across the Northeast. And then we enter a quiet period once again as we kickstart December. How far south will this cold air get? This is when we get into a wild situation. I think this winter storm I just discussed, we're beginning to lock it in. It's just how much snow is going to fall in certain areas, and we'll get more and more detailed into that as we move forward. But there's a time frame that I am watching, and I just want to focus on this area. How far east is this cold air going to get? Once upon a time, meaning a few days ago or several days ago, we thought all this cold air was just going to dump into the central U.S. We have had trends towards it moving to the eastern U.S. And if there's any kind of moisture associated with this, look at this. Not a forecast. So as I always say, don't tell your brothers, uncles, dogs, pet, hamster. It's going to snow in Washington, D.C., 1 p.m. Tuesday, December the 2nd. But there's cold air moving in, low pressure popping off the East Coast. And listen, almost all model data shows this, guys. Not saying it's a forecast, but it shows it in some form or fashion. So we're starting to get into Tuesday. Next Tuesday, we're starting to get into Wednesdays. This low pressure moves away, and we're going to stop it right here because we start to get into that no man's land after day 7, which we're struggling enough to figure out what's going to happen between now and the next 7 days. I'll extend this all the way to day 10, but there's not a whole lot going on. So if we go back and we look at, this is the latest GFS, the one running right now. And once again, we're not going to get all detailed in this again, but this is our system moving through right now. Let's get this back in motion. And this is bringing snow across those areas. And, you know, you're going to see the lake effect snows ongoing as we're getting into Thanksgiving. It's going to be a white Thanksgiving for areas of the Great Lakes region, areas in the interior Northeast. And as we continue to move forward, we start to get into our Friday, still some lake effect snows. And then here comes our Arctic air dropping down. Where's it going to drop? Here comes a low pressure, the same one we just discussed. Already snow breaking out across areas of the Midwest. You know, as the cold air is moving in and some moisture begins to sort of override it, right? And then here it comes. You know, this is getting into 10 a.m. Saturday, November the 29th. We got snow once again for the Midwest. And how much of a high impact winter storm is this going to be for areas in the Midwest and the upper Midwest? I mean, I do think once you get close to sort of that thermal boundary where you go from snow to rain, right? This is where your heaviest precipitation is going to be. And where it's falling as snow, it could be heavy, wet snow. So I'm really watching out for like central Illinois, even getting into Indiana, even back into sections of Missouri and Iowa, kind of this, just the Midwest, right? How heavy will the snow be in Chicago, Milwaukee? It's a big question. And then once again, there's that little bit of pink showing up in the favored CAD regions just off the east slopes of the Appalachian Mountains. And I think if we have just enough cold air hanging around the surface, could get a little bit of ice. We'll continue to watch that. And then the cold air drops on this run of the GFS. And once again, watch this. I'm going to just move this right over here. Cold air on the latest GFS. Want to move further east. And I'm still learning this site. It's an awesome site, by the way, that BAM Weather created. But I have to always go back and click this to get it back in motion. But check this out as we are getting into Tuesday morning, a week from today. This is a time frame that we thought we were just going to have a full-fledged torch, and we still could, for the southeast. Now it's showing snow falling around Raleigh. With a low pressure, same thing with what the Euro showed, hanging around this area. And the Canadian model run shows this. It doesn't show a big storm system, right? But it shows something there. And more snow across the upper Midwest. I think we just are just going to stay cold in the north, where it's supposed to be cold. And we continue to work our way into day 10, which is as far out as I'm going to go. And you don't see anything too crazy after that. And the last, I know we're going through a lot of model data, but I like to get detailed. The last thing we'll go over is the Euro AI with you guys. All right, same thing. This is ongoing right now. We start to get into tomorrow, Thanksgiving Eve. I think that this could be some heavy snow. We'll speak more in detail on this when we go over our daily forecast, and we'll go into tomorrow also. But we could have some really heavy lake effect snow in those favored lake effect snow areas of the UP, Lower Michigan, etc. But as we continue to move forward, you see the lake effect snows continuing as we are getting into Friday morning. And then here comes that storm system that we're starting to lock in. We're just trying to get all the fine details of it. And it shows snow on the Euro AI pretty far south, well into St. Louis. Heck, even in the northern areas of Kansas as we're getting to 7 a.m. Just Saturday morning. And then as an all-out moderate winter storm, I would call it, across areas of the Midwest. I mean, even so shows snow as far south as western Kentucky. And, you know, I really think that this begins to lose some steam as it moves east. And we just kind of lose a lot of precipitation with this. But I think some of this could be ice, once again showing that. And then here comes that weird time frame that we're having a lot of changes with. Once again, a week from right now, this is next Tuesday, low pressure riding up. Almost all model data shows it. How far inland, how far out to sea is it? Cold air now moving further east. We got a little bit of snow showing up in the higher elevations of even South Carolina, North Carolina. Not a forecast. And this is a week from today, and we keep this in motion. Look at that snow for northern areas of North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia. Not a forecast. The Delmarva, the Tidewater, low pressure popping off just close enough, encountering that cold air on the west-northwest side to bring a little bit of snow. So I think this is a very interesting time period all of a sudden. And after that, who knows, right? So I know I got very detailed on that, but man, the changes, we're locking in that winter storm in that 4 to 5 day period at the end of this week into this weekend. But the changes we are seeing in kind of that day 6 to day 10 time frame is absolutely insane right now. So let's talk about the chances for snow, so accumulating snow. So what you're looking at here is the 48-hour run. So you're going to see a snow footprint kind of appear and then disappear. So what you're seeing right here is our system moving through right now. So several inches of snow, and we'll get more detailed on the snow forecast up here as we get to our daily forecast. So if you're tuning in from the UP of Michigan and areas in northern Wisconsin like Mitch, can we get a little bit more detailed? I got you towards the daily forecast. I got you covered there. And then you see the lake effect snows following after this getting into Friday, and then that signal disappears. And you see how this big area appears right here. This is that winter storm we're beginning to lock in across areas in the Midwest. Several inches of wet snow could fall across the Midwest. And sorry, that's one of my cats. They're trapped in here right now, and they're scared of a dog that we are watching. So sorry about the loud bang. Let's keep it rolling here. But as we continue to roll here, we're always good for one mix-up in these videos, and most people would edit those out, but I just don't care enough to do that. This is as homegrown as it gets, as personal as it gets. But look how this signal begins to really rise through the weekend. This is pretty much the weekend time frame, and we got a solid signal for like over a half a foot of snow across areas of northern Illinois, eastern sections of, Iowa, even a 6-inch average ensemble mean for Chicago. We're off to a pretty decent start to our winter in Chicago. Chicago is definitely an area where you've kind of gotten ripped off during winters of recent past. So the signal is pretty strong over the Great Lakes region, and this continues to move away. And then what happens after that? Who knows? It's a big question mark. And then looking at the eastern U.S., same thing. As we are moving forward, you can see the signal for lake effect snow, several inches of it. I don't think this is going to be some huge lake effect snow event. It's not going to last super long, but certainly certain areas in those favored regions south of Buffalo, between Buffalo and Erie, off Lake Erie someone could sneak and get about a foot of snow. But off Lake Superior, between what's going to fall from the storm system and lake effect snow, I think we could get 1 to 2 feet in these certain areas up here. We continue to move forward, and there's that signal for that winter storm across the Midwest. We've just talked about that, but you're not really seeing any signal for any kind of mischief that the operations are showing, and I wouldn't expect it. I think the models are still trying to iron out all the details. Now, this is the chances to see 1 inch of snow between now and the next 10 days off the Euro ensemble. Not necessarily a forecast, but it really shows us the signal for accumulating snow. So this is the chances of 1 inch of snow. In that red, you're pretty much at 100% chance. So, this is already happening across areas of the Dakotas and Montana and Minnesota. And, look, even across the Great Lakes region, Chicago, a lock to see 1 inch of snow. And we go all the way to 3 inches of snow. And even Chicago, Milwaukee, I know I keep saying Chicago, but, my mind immediately goes to that area. Northern Indiana, all of Michigan, a lock to see just about 3 inches of snow. Pretty much a lock. Now, nothing's ever a lock until it is, right? But, you look at the 6-inch look here, and we're going to have to switch this and go back to that because the 06Z run is now running. This is the chances to see 6 inches or more of snow. And we're even in that kind of 60 to 70% chance in Chicago, out in Milwaukee, and Minneapolis, even the same thing, guys. And so we're going to see what happens with this. And we switch this and look at the eastern U.S., chance to see 1 inch of snow. Interior New England, a lot. Great Lakes region, a lot. Northern Ohio Valley, you're pretty much locking it in. There's a sharp cutoff to the south in Kentucky, the mid-Atlantic region, areas of the I-95 corridor, right? It really significantly drops off. Chances to see 1 inch of snow, and this is going to keep disappearing because it's going to keep going to the 06Z. Same thing, we'll go 10 days out, move this down, chances to see 3 inches of snow. So, and then we'll go to 6 inches also between now and the next 10 days. I think it's also fair to mention the risk of some freezing rain. Now, this is the 10-day Euro ensemble for freezing rain. It's not always spot on, but I do think it has the right idea. Normally when you have an Arctic air mass, or in this case, it could be multiple pushes of Arctic air. Arctic air is very shallow and normally have a lot of warm air aloft depending on where that boundary is, and you run the risk of sleet and freezing rain. So we're going to watch these areas that you see here in the pink and kind of grayed out area for a risk of freezing rain as we make our way between now and pretty much the foreseeable future, but this is between now and the next 10 days. Now, let's talk about temperatures. We've locked in this cold front that's starting to move across areas of the country now. This is going to sweep across the eastern U.S., bring us a cold Thanksgiving across a lot of areas of the country. And then even as we get into this coming weekend, the last weekend of November. And this is indicated by the blues and the greens you see here on this map. This is below average temperatures. And in this case, since we're in late November, this is cold temperatures. So as we continue to move forward here, we're getting into Saturday. We're getting into Sunday. We still we're starting to moderate a little bit. We're starting to get that ridge flex. This is getting into Sunday. Warmer than average temperatures returning across the deep south. Still hanging on to average, to slightly below average temperatures across the eastern U.S. But that cold air mass we've been talking about for over a week now drops into the middle of the country. And this is indicated by the blues and greens, even some Barney colors that you see on your screen. And by the way, those Barney colors, those purples, I mean, it's anywhere from 15 to 25 degrees below average. So very cold air. But the thing that's changed is we were thinking that this was all going to drop down to the central U.S. So we were going to get a huge spiking of the southeast ridge, and we still probably will for at least a couple of days. And this is just one output, one operational run of the Euro. But watch what happens here. As we are starting to get into like next Monday after this coming weekend, December 1st and the 2nd, that cold air now is showing to ooze eastward and downright just get eastward. So now a big chunk of the central and eastern U.S. is below average. And we don't even have a period of well above average temperatures across the southeast if this run of the Euro is correct. So we're starting to get into Tuesday, we're getting into Thursday. Look at all this cold air now, which backs up what I just showed you on the Euro, the GFS, the Canadian, the Euro AI model runs was showing a little bit of a winter weather kind of signal across areas of the eastern U.S. a week from today. But even as we get between day 7 and day 10, a lot of cold air now is suddenly showing up for the first 5 days of December, which goes against everything we've been discussing and everything we've been showing you from the Climate Prediction Center. So you might ask, well, is this backed up by other model runs? And we're going to stop it right here. This goes all the way to about 10 days out, all the way out to next Thursday. There's no point even going out any further than that because we're struggling enough to figure out what's going to happen between now and that day 10 time frame. The GFS shows it too. First cold front sweeps in, and we're getting into this weekend. Kind of a lingering air mass. Could have a nasty cold air damning day across areas of the southeast. And then a big area of cold air begins to drop down to the middle of the country with that second cold air mass. And check it out. It begins to move further east. We're still hanging on to slightly above or just flat out well above average temperatures across the southeast. As we are starting to get into December 1st. But look how cold this area is, first off, in the middle of the country. And look how it's beginning to progress into the eastern U.S. as we get into the first full day of December. So you only get like 1 day on the GFS or 2 days of above average temperatures across areas of the south and southeast. And it's not even that bad. And just like what the Euro is showing, we have a big area of below average temperatures. Let's just call it cold Arctic air across a good chunk of the country. And we go all the way a week from today, and look how cold it is across the central to eastern U.S. now. That is a huge, huge change from what we've been talking and discussing for early December. And, we get between the day 7 and day 10 time frame. We're getting to the 3rd and the 4th. Look how cold the temperatures are across the eastern U.S. And we'll just go all the way out to day 10, and we'll stop it right here because we're getting enough changes between now and day 10, like I just said. And the same thing with the Euro AI, and we might have, the new run of the Euro AI, and we do. First cold front, sweeping in, sweeping out. Next cold air mass moves in, and sure enough, and I haven't even looked at this run yet, the cold air, yeah, sure, drops into the central U.S., but it doesn't stay there anymore. And this is getting into December 1st. We get a whopping 1 day of temperatures above average across the southeast. And then it immediately goes back to colder than average. So, man, this is 1 week from today. The eastern U.S. is colder. And then it shows another air mass at day 10 dropping down. So, man, we are getting a lot of changes. Now, is this backed up ensemble guidance? Somewhat. The Euro ensemble wants to continue to pump the southeast ridge, but it is gradually beating it down, and we wouldn't expect a crazy response from ensemble guidance based off of the operational runs we're seeing yet. The ensemble guidance it's its job to keep things more level-headed, right? It's a smoothed out mean of many members, many scenarios and solutions to create an average. So you can tell not all the members are on board with what the operation runs are showing, but it just flat out doesn't look as warm as it did. And, we continue to see colder trends, and this is the run-to-run temperature change with this. And we're going to start this off into Sunday, and you can see when you compare the run overnight Euro ensemble with yesterday's Euro ensemble, we continue to trend colder in the eastern U.S. And as we get to that 1 week from now time frame, we continue to trend colder. The blue area is where we're trending colder compared to the last model run. And that continues to be the case. So we have a solid trend towards not even having a southeast ridge, really. Now, is that my forecast? No. But, if you look at this and what's going on, you see this big area in blue and green. This is our trough dipping down really right now into this weekend. That's going to bring our shot of cold air and a little bit of energy associated with it. It's a big dip in the jet, brings cold air down, and then we got another big dip in the jet that drops down to the middle of the country. This flexes the ridge across the eastern U.S. for a period, big spiking ridge up to Alaska. We call that a negative EPO. This will dislodge cold air down into this trough, this dip in the jet. And but you see what happens here on the Euro ensemble. It does want to keep the ridge around for the eastern U.S., but that is a huge trough up in Canada, dipping down to the northern section of the country, just ready to drop cold air down. And one thing, at the very end of the run that it's showing is an all-out broad ridge across the southern tier of the country and southeast, but I'm not sold on that. I'm really not. So we got to just continue to figure this one out. And the last thing I'll show you is this crazy trend that we're seeing, and this might be a more simpler way to show you guys. This is the Euro AI model run. Yeah, it is. The Euro AI model run from about 3 days ago, 3 mornings ago. So this was many cycles ago. So this is for next Monday, December the 1st. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what's going on right here, right? The reds and the whites, the pinks, those are well above average temperatures. The blues and the purples, below average temperatures. So watch as we work our way into the current Euro AI model run, and watch how all this red, pink, white, whatever you want to call it, disappears. See how it's going to begin to back off in the last couple of runs, and this is what it looks like now. So look at that. It's kind of, and this isn't a progression in time. This is the same time frame. So that's a pretty obvious trend that we're seeing. So, there still continues to be a lot of chatter about December, and I continue to think that we're going to get colder and we're going to increase winter weather chances as we get deeper into December. We look at the latest MJO forecast, and let's see if we can have any updates here. And we don't, but that's okay. We don't need to have just extreme update information every single time. But that's why I encourage you guys, follow me on X, follow me on Facebook, etc. And I provide a lot of update information. But this is the run from, I believe, yesterday. I don't think a whole lot's going to change. If we draw on this, as always, guys, phase 7, 6, 5, 4, even 3, these are pretty much warm phases. 6, 5, and 4, these are pretty much definitely warm phases, like just most of the lower 48, outside of some quick cold shots that we can still get in these warm phases, is mostly dominated by warm air. The 2 phases, they're a bit more of a question mark, is 7 and 3. We can still get cold air, and in certain areas of the country still be favorable. And we're going to focus more on 7 because that is where we are working towards. So where are we right now? And like I said, where are we working towards, and where are we aiming to get if you're a winter weather and cold weather fan, which I understand not everybody is, but you get what I'm saying. Right now we're in phase 6. You see that 25 right here? That stands for November 25th, which is the date today, right? So it's saying that we're going to quickly, over the next 48 hours, race into phase 7 based off this MJO progression chart. And then you see that 1, and then you see that 3. That is December 1st, December 3rd. So we're fully working our way through phase 7. So what does phase 7 support as far as temperatures, things like that? Well, it supports a drop of cold air into the country, which is exactly what we're going to get. But a lot of times, it more so favors ridging in the southeast, southern tier of the country, even the eastern U.S. A lot of times supports a lot of cold air dropping down into the northern tier and central areas of the country, and that's exactly what we're going to get. But as we work our way into the mid-month time frame, see the 13, 15, that's December 13th and 15th, okay? We start to get into phase 8, okay? So I do need to mention phase 8, 1, and 2 are favorable phases in winter for colder air, widespread cold air, and winter storm chances, especially phase 8 in December. And it shows us fully working our way into that by mid-month. Now, it's normally a 1-week lag. So if there's a 1-week lag, we get into phase 8, maybe the 14th, 15th, 13th time frame. That would set us up for a very favorable pattern when right at the heels of Christmas time, which would be awesome, right? I mean, I think it will be. But it shows us untangling that knot faster now. If you've been watching over the last few videos, we've had a knot kind of showing us getting really hung up in phase 7. It's starting to untangle that a little bit now. And listen, I'm telling you, if we progress like this, things are going to happen in the back half of December. Things can happen before then. But if we progress the way this chart's showing into phase 8 for the back half of December, things are going to happen, winter weather-wise. Now, let's see if we have an updated. Yeah, I think that just changed a little bit. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it did. You guys let me know in the comments. But let's see if we can update this browser, see if we did get a change. A lot of times we get a change right in the middle of this. And I'll say the GEFS right here has us moving into phase 8 in about a week and a half. So some of it progresses much, much faster, guys. And no, that's not updated. But I mean, the Euro, operation one itself has us almost getting to phase 8 by the 10th. So, I mean, it continues to look good in my opinion. And there's no point showing anything else, but we got to get to phase 8. And I'm really starting to think we are. That's the golden phase. As far as today's weather, let's go over this. All right, we got snow. We've already talked about this. This is making its way across the Dakotas, starting to really take over areas of Minnesota. Cold air is working in at the same time. We got a line of thunderstorms starting to move into northern Georgia right now. And everything in between, this is just good old-fashioned heavy rain. Little bit of freezing rain, maybe in those favored areas in the interior New England region. The rest of the central U.S. and western U.S., pretty quiet. Another system moving into the Pacific Northwest. But this is some heavy snow up here. Let me know what you're seeing if you're tuning in from that area. Watches, warnings, and advisories. Let's update this, see if we've had any changes. That pink area, there's our winter storm warnings. Getting all the way down to the Minneapolis area, northern Wisconsin, the UP and Michigan. We got winter storm watches in this teal. In these lake effect snow regions, winter weather advisories in the purple. And south of this low pressure, a lot of wind alerts, high wind warnings, wind advisories, even some fog. You're kind of on the warmer side of this storm system. So we do got some severe thunderstorm warnings down here to the south. This line of storms making its way through. Severe weather chances. This is mainly for what's going on right now. It's about early afternoon. We do have a slight risk. This does include Birmingham, Meridian, Montgomery, and everywhere in between in this yellow area. In this area, we have a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. So be aware of this. It's ongoing right now. And then this dark green, that's a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather, a marginal risk. And if you live in these light green areas here, this is a general risk of thunderstorms. But continue to watch out for this and look at the tornado outlook. That's a 5% risk of a tornado in the brown area. 2% risk in the green, which does include Atlanta, getting all the way into sections of South Carolina, Chattanooga, all the way up into Tennessee, almost up to Knoxville. So we'll watch for that. Speaking of the radar today, this line of storms will continue and start to move up into the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee. It'll likely weaken because of the higher elevations. And we got some more thunderstorms trying to form behind this. And we need to watch out for some tornadoes and just damaging winds, even a little bit of hail with these. And you can see that this kind of has that look with these storms. Some of them are hooking. You don't want to see that, but hopefully not a big day of tornadoes or anything. We had a few in Texas yesterday. But just scattered rain, and hopefully we actually get this line of moisture that goes through Georgia, South Carolina. I know I've said this in literally every video for the last 2 weeks, but I've not received measurable rain at my house here in central South Carolina in the entire month of November. It sprinkled a little bit this morning, but it did not measure up to anything. A closer look at Alabama and Mississippi, where we have the highest severe weather risk today. And, as we're getting into about lunchtime, more thunderstorms could form down here near Monroeville, back into Meridian, Tuscaloosa, Montgomery. I think I already said that. And just watch out for these storms. It could get going again once the atmosphere recovers this afternoon. These could produce some tornadoes. A tornado outbreak, I don't think so. But even this evening, more thunderstorms trying to form with this trough just kind of slowly making its way through the area. So just be aware of that. The Northeast, good old-fashioned rain makes its way in, but things are going to turn wintry fast, at least for interior areas of the Northeast. But this is rain moving in across areas of the Northeast. This is getting into later this evening. Like I said, all rain with this, and then cold air will move in behind all of this tomorrow. So just expect rain across the Northeast today. South Central U.S., quieter weather moving in. Nothing to really talk about. Different story for the North Central U.S. Low pressure riding in. Snow's really going to pick up intensity later this afternoon to this evening. Could start out with some heavy rain in Minneapolis. And then as cold air begins to work in, we could switch to a period of heavy snow later on tonight across Minneapolis, certainly snowing in northern Wisconsin. Rain begins to switch to snow in areas of the western UP, eventually into the central UP. Like I said, that's a 995 low. That's a pretty compact, strong low pressure, and I really think we could have brief blizzard conditions in areas of northern Wisconsin, the western UP. If you do live in the eastern UP, this is probably going to bring mostly rain for the majority of the system, but some backside snow, even with this, can make its way all the way down as we're getting into tomorrow afternoon to like Milwaukee, Green Bay, and then cold air works in behind, and we could have some aggressive lake effect snow starting tomorrow p.m. So if you're making any kind of last second drives to grandma's house or whatever you may be doing for Thanksgiving, and you live in the Great Lakes region, lower Michigan, UP and Michigan, it is going to get dicey. Be careful out there. But snowfall forecast between now and the next 36 hours, basically the entirety of this event. Minneapolis, 3 inches is what they're going for. Let's update this, see if we got any new information. We don't. Duluth, about 7 inches of snow. Ironwood, 2 feet of snow, and fast too. Eau Claire, about an inch or so. Fargo, 5-6 inches or so. We're just going to kind of go back and forth here. Wisconsin, Green Bay, a couple tenths of an inch of snow is possible. Woosau, inch or two. Ironwood, there it is, a lot of snow. We go up to the UP, and you can see if you live in the UP, your neighbors in the western UP are going to get crushed with 1 to 2 feet. Marquette, sort of that dividing line, 5 to 6 inches. And, this only goes out about 36 hours, about midnight Thursday. So, you're probably going to get more snow than this. And I will drop it down to lower Michigan. Like I said, this is just between now and 1 a.m. Thursday. So this is in the entirety of all the lake effect snow that's going to come too. So we'll stop it there. Detroit already showing up on the board here. The western U.S., this is what we're looking at. Another system moving into the Pacific Northwest, higher elevation snow, a little bit more cold air working in. So might drop those snow levels a bit. Temperatures across the east, it's a warm day out ahead of this cold front on the way tomorrow and the next day and Thanksgiving. Deep south, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then this is the western U.S. cold air beginning to make its way in. So let's create a timestamp. Let's make this our timestamp. Do our Bible devotion. Sorry about the messiness in the videos, guys. I had the thing fall in the middle of the video. We're watching my mother-in-law's dog, and it's got all my other animals in chaos right now. Cats have had to been trapped in here. I got my husky at the door over here. Waiting on me to let him in, and it is just, and he's very, y'all know, huskies are territorial, so he don't know what to think, and it's just going to be probably a little chaotic the next few days until they get back from actually Colorado, which is where they're heading towards this morning. So praying for safe travels for them. But let's get in the word here. We're in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 16 through 18. Rejoice always, pray constantly, give thanks in everything, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. So I hit on rejoice always. So I said, let me put this down so I don't drop anything. We've had enough things dropping in this video this morning. Rejoice always. This isn't saying you're always going to feel happy. Let's be real, we're not, right? When difficulties come in life, but to find overall joy in the relationship you have with Jesus. This will help power you through those tough times. Pray constantly. Pray over situations that need prayer, but also constantly communicate with God also even outside of prayer time. Talk to him. I've told you this many times. Talk to him like he's like on the way to work, like he's your best friend. It'll give you a lot of clarity and a lot of peace, a lot of joy. And be thankful. Thanksgiving's coming up. It's huge, right? Be thankful through the lows and highs in life. This is an expression of faith. Okay, and I've said this many times. We all want to. It's different, right? We all want to go to Jesus when things are going sideways, right, and bad, and pray. But it's also important to thank him when things are going good too. And I know a lot of people say, well, that's probably when most people do. I would kind of counter against that some. I think a lot of times when things are going all good and gravy, right, all great, a lot of times people become kind of complacent, kind of just comfortable, and stop really leaning on Christ. And sometimes, man, I know for me, when things are just going really good, sometimes I just stop what I'm doing and just thank him and say, man, I really appreciate this good stretch, this good season that I'm in right now. I know that there's a valley coming. It's inevitable. Life is going to come. But I really appreciate things being calm while it's been calm. And I think that's important to acknowledge that. But we always know a valley's coming, right? You got to be thankful through it also, and pray through it and rejoice through it. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Like I said, just be a little patient with me with these videos coming up. I'm still testing some things out as far as the way I want to flow through the videos. It's a little chaotic. It's literally like a farm at my house right now. So there's going to be some hiccups and things like that. But we'll get going over the coming days. Y'all have a wonderful day. God bless all y'all. Appreciate y'all very much. We'll talk again soon.